Hi, my name's Pharaoh, and today I thought I'd do something a bit different because it's a bank holiday weekend and gave me a bit of time to sort some things out. And here I'm going to rank all of the expeditions from S down to C. So I don't know how many C's I actually have, but I'll try and be as honest and kind of spread out and take as much feedback as I get. So anybody wants to contribute and jump in and suggest why things are better than maybe I think they are, or worse than maybe I think they are, then by all means do so. It'll be the stream's decision as opposed to just my decision, although I will be putting the things on the board, so I do have a bit more power here. I was humming and hawing about how to do this. I was thinking I'd use one of those websites and or maybe build some kind of board myself and use an art program. And then I thought, why not just use the game? Because then later on down the line, I can just, when I review maybe an expedition, I can just put the new sticker on here. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the build system, move these from the bottom here into where I think they should be. I've got some criteria that I'm going to use. So let me just see if I can get the right screen up. My rules are, first of all, the overall theme of the expedition. A lot of them are themed, not all of them are. So, how well themed were the phases, or how well matched were the individual milestones? So, even if there weren't a clear theme there, then did they kind of hang together well as an overall expedition? The flow and narrative, how logically did the expedition progress, or how well told was the story? So, in other words, did it seem to kind of flow from the beginning to the end? Even if there wasn't a story, did it kind of make sense and you knew where you were in the overall narrative of it? Um, Stumbling blocks, were there any milestones overly tricky or required extra knowledge outside of standard player experience? Obviously, expeditions do teach us things, but I do notice that some expeditions did have things that were very new to some players, so they just weren't sure what to do. I won't I'm steering away from examples at this stage because we'll get into those obviously. Were there bugs that caused problems? Caused is problems. I've got there. I'll change that. Were there bugs that caused problems? There definitely have been a few expeditions where there were a few bugs, so that should come into it. Did it cause problems right through to the end, or was it fixed relatively quickly? Was it completely fixed so that were some people just stuck? Uh, were their milestones that overly suited the early bird? That's kind of something that I've noticed, is that whenever I do an expedition, I'm usually around at the beginning of the expedition, so I can just jump in and do it almost within the first hour or two. And I've noticed that some people are getting problems where like milestones are being messed up by other players, or just the general kind of the fact that the expedition is generally a multiplayer thing that can be messed up that way, or it can affect the experience, put it that way. Um, Rewards, the durability, the desirability. I'm reading it in very small writing from another screen. The desirability of the rewards in quality, utility, and coolness. So, was it a good expedition for the rewards? Were we all desperate for those rewards when we saw them? Were we thinking, "Oh, that's really cool"? And just generally, did we do the expedition just for the rewards? Because some people only do them specifically, the ones they like, for the rewards. And the interactivity, how interactive was with the community was it? Some of them have got specific goals that are based on those kinds of things. And how well was that interaction implemented? So when they introduce kind of community milestones, did they work well? Did they kind of cause a bit of a stumbling block or confusion? And were community milestones implemented well or overly punishing? So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about the community milestones, but some of them were very much a grind and they took a long while to do, but then the early birds would have had the problem with that, and the later people, they could have waited until the end, and then just all of those community milestones would have been done. And did they feel fun or a grind? Kind of touched on that. Some of them really were quite grindy. You have to do an awful lot of stuff. Some of them, the grind wasn't that bad, but they were just individual things that we had to do in that kind of community thing. That some of them were quite good. I'm trying desperately not to go into specifics here because we will talk about the specifics. So maybe I'll stick to that. It's just, did they feel fun or a grind when we had to do the community milestones? Hi, Gravnot. I see you're here already and have a very clear idea of what you think, which is that the current expedition is your favorite because you're farming it to bring back S-class ship multi-tool and S-class modules. That is a new thing, and I do think that that's quite an interesting thing about expeditions, is that we can now farm them. We can use them for other purposes other than what they were designed for, kind of exploiting the system, and stress that when I say exploit, I don't necessarily mean cheating. I just mean that there's a system there that we can exploit and make use of. And that's quite a new thing. What are you saying here? I just started the current expedition, and Hello Games has made changes since the start of the expedition. There are no player bases visible or accessible in the spawn system. That's I don't know if they've made changes since the expedition started, because I know we were talking about that early on in the expedition when it first started, that there were some issues. And I think they were just trying to balance those issues and get them working, because I don't think they've done that before. But yeah, it is one of those things that perhaps having the bases can be a problem, especially when people use them as a method of griefing. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the building system. I don't really need to select a part because I can go down here and pick up a part. And I'm going to pick up each one in turn. So start with the first one. Especially now we can do that, because it used to really mess up when you tried to do that. And then I'll place them wherever I think. And obviously we may not remember exactly which expedition is which just from the logo. So we'll also be looking at the wiki, looking at descriptions, looking at the milestones that were there, and generally just deciding which ones were good and which ones were bad. And so Pioneer, I mean, let's say my gut feeling is that it was okay. And I often say, for instance, that people shouldn't necessarily say, oh, I want to play every expedition. Can I just choose the one? It's like, well, do you really want to play that first one? It was okay. It introduced us, but so we'll get into why I think it was okay and maybe move it up or down in a second. But I'm just going to pick up that badge, position it on the board. So let's start, as we mean to go on, by looking at the list of expeditions on the wiki, which I think is probably a good place to go because it usually lists the milestones there. So pull up a browser. Get rid of the rules. Where is my browser gone? So here we have, say, the Pioneers expedition, and we can quickly look to see how it was described. This is how the wiki describes it. We can also look at the release log of how it was described. What was Pioneers an actual release? I think it was. Goodness, how far back do these go? 2021. They're going a lot longer than I remember. So let me just get an idea from clicking on one of these. Actually, was there even? Let's do a. For some reason. No, I'm not seeing it if I do a search for it. Was there an update called that? I'm not sure there was. Was it just called Expeditions? Expeditions Revisited. That must have been the Reduxers. Yeah, it was called Expeditions. And we were obviously introduced to Expeditions on the website, and they first told us what they were. And I do think that the very first one was a very good introduction to the system. It showed us the potential of the system, explained everything about how they worked in terms of they had badges as we went through the milestones, so we could have an easy view. The layout hasn't changed much since. I don't think it's changed at all, really. I do think that they should have made use of this in other parts of the game, but we'll talk about that another time, maybe. And if we look at the wiki, then we had to do the basics. We had to locate our ship, lift off. These are very standard early stages to most of them these days. I like that they've stopped doing this quite so much recently. Lift off, warp. We had to establish a base, discover 20 creatures, purchase a capital ship. That's an interesting thing that we had to do that. It's almost like they were introducing us to the game as well as the expedition system. Explore certain distance on foot. That one comes up a lot. Reach the rendezvous points. Explore 5 specific environments: verdant, barren, swamp, airless, and unusual. So that again is something that comes up quite a lot, having to go to certain places. But this was the first time we ever saw this kind of thing. Discover a new system, enter a black hole, spend 30 seconds airborne, visit a red star. Now, this is where it started to get a bit tricky for some people. It's like finding these things if you're a newer player, because at this stage you had to have a new save, and people would say, "Oh, just start the expedition," and people wouldn't be very familiar with these things. Visit the different color stars still, whispering eggs, which can be a challenge for people as they weren't used to doing that. What was that? Discover 35 systems. That's a lot. I remember this one being a bit of a grind. Earn plus 30 explorers guild standing. Again, I remember this one being a bit of a stumbling block because people couldn't work out how to get the explorers element. When you go to a space station and you see the list of things, people couldn't work out how to even get the explorers up consistently, because you need to have done a certain number of missions often to have actually seen those ones. So you'd often get the racers first. So you'd go, say, to a GEX system. Well, actually, for explorers, you'd probably go to a Corvax system, but you'd probably have to do a Corvax mission to even see some explorers missions. Completely explore a derelict freighter, so they really are throwing us in the deep end. Hi, Alphas. Good to see you. Feel free to chip in. We're talking about pioneers to start with. Complete all. That's just normal. Reach the final rendezvous. Walked a certain number of units on extreme worlds. Acquire the abyssal treasures. That one I remember being very, very much a grind, because it wasn't easy to get. You either had to be lucky and get them using the under the submerged ruins, or you could be very, very lucky and get them on a freighter. And a lot of the advice would say, go to a freighter, it's easy on a freighter. I got it immediately, which of course was very much a bias based on their own success. Eliminate 50 sentinels. That's a lot of sentinels. Earn 1 million. Discover an abandoned system. Chart 60 waypoints. That's a lot as well. Collect 50 storm crystals. So if we had to do this tomorrow, I don't think this would be a very well-received expedition. It's very time-consuming. It's got a lot of grind to it. But on the other hand, the experience of doing it when it first came out, I felt was very much a good introduction to the system. But even back then, in that very first couple of weeks of doing this, a lot of people were complaining how difficult it was, how different it was, and how much of a grind it was, just generally. And then the general confusion on how to do things. So I honestly don't think I can place it any higher than B, as in it was a good introduction. It worked, it flowed, but it had some stumbling blocks. So if I return to my list, on the rules, it definitely had some stumbling blocks. Some of those things were very difficult to do. But the quality of the rewards, I mean, this was the first time we saw a ship. It had the golden vector. We can we look at the rewards in the system? Probably would need to go to the anomaly, which I don't really want to have to jump backwards and forwards for. There is a system here, isn't there, where is it collected knowledge? I don't remember where it is now. I haven't looked for ages. Anybody remember where you find it in here? Or was it on the main page? Yes. Previous expeditions. That's right. Oh, got the rules anyway. Well, all you were missing was me having difficulty finding the right page, but I found it now. So in the catalogue and guide, if you go to the factions section, so if I go back, you can click on this here, and then in previous expeditions you can view, if you've done them, what they entailed. And this one, you got the Golden Vector Starship as the main primary reward. And I feel like that was a very cool thing. We really enjoyed that as a ship. It was a pretty well balanced ship. It looked good. We can quickly put it to show it, to be honest. Yeah. What am I doing? I'm still in the build system. Still thinking about building, trying to build a ship. Have I even got it? Yes, I have. I'll not land here. Where can I land it? Can I land it from this height? No, probably going to go down. Yeah, that was something that was quite interesting. As soon as we started doing other expeditions, then we suddenly had that ability to use the previous expedition ships, which actually took me by surprise that we were able to do that. But it was a really cool element of the game that we could get to the anomaly and do cool stuff. Hi, Ignition. How are you doing? Yes, happy Easter. Not a particularly religious person myself, but I do enjoy the holiday. But yeah, that is a very nice ship. You can't really make that. You can't build that ship. You can make something similar. But it was a very, very nice reward. And it was seen in the anomaly as people's chosen ship for a very long while afterwards. And I've held on to it on this save. Let's get right back. There's another expedition ship there. Get right back on here. So I feel comfortable about that being B. Alphas, I usually rate expeditions in my head on how enjoyable they were to do, regardless of rewards. I kind of get that point. And I feel like the enjoyability is kind of where your gut feeling's always going to drift, and you're going to rate a lot of the other things based on how enjoyable they were. Mm. Hi, yeah, Bumichi. I don't know how to pronounce that, but do you know the code for the explorable? Scientific, if I spelt it right. I'm not quite sure what you mean by explorable. Um, I presume if you're saying in the files, you're talking about finding it in the game files. I'm not sure. Okay, so I feel relatively happy putting Pioneers as a B. I don't think it was anything exceptional. If anybody has any different opinions, then chime in while I move into picking up the second one. Oh, that didn't pick it up. There we go. So, Beachhead. Just place it large here for a second while we're discussing it before we place it anywhere. Now, Beachhead was odd because it had that secret element. It had we weren't really sure what the expedition was really going to give us. It didn't let us know what the ultimate reward was. And of course, there was a lot of speculation that it was going to be a golden freighter, because it didn't have this badge either. It had a badge that showed a freighter. And so, oh, okay, we've got a golden ship. We're going to get a golden freighter. But there was this element of shock and surprise when they gave us a cross-game reward. And nobody really expected that. We've never seen anything quite like it since. They've never really done a cross-game reward in any other context. So they gave us the Normandy, a very cool thing. I think most people will put that in their fleet. It's a frigate. So as far as rewards go, I think this is one of the good ones. I liked doing it. One of the things I liked about it was just a short period of time. I liked the fact that it had the mythology that you had to find, and it kind of the mythology kind of retold the story. Or it's Mass Effect, isn't it? Retold the story of Mass Effect in kind of an in-game. So it's almost as if the two worlds were merging in an interesting way. I liked that element. But overall, I wouldn't have said it was a great expedition. Let's have a quick look at some of the milestones. And I'll look at what the chat's saying there. Notes. Browser. What have I done with my browser? There we go. So, Beachhead. So this was an interesting start. We started off in the Moon rover. We had to build the geobay and drive to our first ship. And to be honest, it was quicker to just build the Moon rover and then run to the ship. So the flow was already a little bit off. Lift off, engage warp, rendezvous one, scrap a ship, restore a crashed ship, interstellar rescue, assist a stranded life form. That was a bit of a stumbling block. That took a little bit of people's kind of, they were progressing and then they found that tricky. You needed to know what you were doing to get that one. Some of us were trying to explain, oh, you can get it quite easily, but it was tricky to explain even how to do that easily. Explore a freighter crash site. I'm trying to just pick out any interesting ones. Creatures on a desert planet. Toxic planet. Was this one where you had to was this the first one you had to discover something? Yes, it was. Uncharted. This was definitely a bit of a stumbling block. I think they're starting to learn that this can be tricky. Having to discover a system and you get that bubble of all the players that are playing it, and it slowly gets further and further away from the main game. That was definitely a stumbling block. But I did like this Myth Beacon stuff, having to it was the beginning of having some kind of community goal. We hadn't seen that before. So it was like a new and expanded idea of doing things. Let's have a quick look at chat, see what everybody's saying. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. Um, Beatty. But I have no idea. I don't make ships. So I don't really know exactly what the code is to do it. I know the theory that they can adapt an exotic, but I'm not actually sure how they do it. Just because I'm not that interested in doing it myself, so I've never tried. Oh, I'm trying to do the wrong bit there. We've got an early kind of, if you look at the rewards, Omega wins hands down, the Atlas multi-tool, Starborn runner, and lots of Quicksilver. Well, that's definitely a good way of looking at it. The rewards are a key for a lot of people. And then, as we were saying earlier, when Gravnort was talking about it, the ability to bring stuff back is a really big one. It can actually fundamentally change your current progress. In fact, one of my saves that I play most often is basically just an expedition save, which I go into every expedition and bring back all of the rewards. So I make use of that a lot. The Redux of Beast's Head last year, it was okay. That was one expedition where my focus was on the reward more than the expedition. See, I kind of depends if you're into lore or not, I guess. See, I would be. Make sure you are seeing me on the screen. Yes, you are. I would be kind of between A and B. I liked the lore of it, but it was relatively basic expedition. It was over quite quickly. The rewards, I've used the rewards ever since. I can't really say I haven't. It's A or B. I'm going to tentatively put it in A, and we can always move things around. Just because I really like the reward, and as other people were saying, the reward was very much a big thing about it. So where are we going? So I don't even recognize that particular one. So let's have a look what that was. Cartographers. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This was a very interesting and also controversial expedition. I think they've all had their own controversies in a way. But cartographers was a bit of a shock for a lot of us just because of the way that it worked. I'm thinking of the right one. Let's just read what it says. Cartography is focused primarily on deep exploration of a single planet. This season places all the expeditioners on the toxic world of Gisto Major, where their bespoke starship will require specialist attention to repair and launch into space. Yes, it is the one I'm thinking of. So I don't think I need to go too much into what happened. We'll just go to what the rewards were. Um, I can talk about what happened in a second. Expedition patches, items, blueprints, exosuit, and so what was the exosuit? Can't pull that to one side on here. Let's have a quick look what the main reward was in the... I'm thinking I know, but I don't want to prejudge it. So this was the third one. The biological horror companion egg. So I would say that's the least important reward we've ever had. I'm not interested in companions as rewards for expeditions at all. So that kind of gets marked down for that. I did like the element. Now, the element that was really new and controversial was that we had to all be on one planet, and in order to fix your ship, you needed things that were going to take quite a bit to get. They weren't the standard things. They changed the way the game worked, which again introduced us to another potential of expeditions, that you can actually change the rules. You need different things in order to fix your ship, which was very clever and did kind of get the mind going as to what else they could do in expeditions. I thought it was a great expedition till I couldn't find this crystal sulfite. Precisely, that was one of the things. I was really lucky in the expedition. I think if I try and remember exactly what I did in this expedition, obviously we had to run around a lot. I found a nearby trade minor settlement. So I found a trade post. I could actually, not a trade post, but I found a trading device that allowed me to actually buy some stuff. And on the way back, I stumbled upon a depot, and the depot had one of the things I needed. So I was able to, with a bit of a fight with Sentinels, which I wasn't really up for. So that was quite an interesting thing to have to do with a brand new character that was really struggling. I was able to get one of the parts that fixed my ship. And so lots of other people were really struggling to get the individual things. And I'd got it pretty quickly. And I just got off the planet and went to another system and did all the other stuff away from the main planet, most of the other stuff away from the main planet. So I was lucky. And that isn't how the expedition was designed. There was a stumbling block. I don't know if people remember that in the first... at this time, they had messed up the Whispering Egg defenders, the monstrosities that defended eggs. And they were far too deadly. They were able to spit at us or even headbutt us, even if we were like 100 units away. And so that was really a bit of a stumbling block, because it was literally killing us if we weren't careful around Whispering Eggs. And we had to get Whispering Eggs. So that was a bit of a stumbling block. I really liked the idea. I just don't know how well implemented it was. What do other people think about cartographers, apart from Ignition, who obviously said he did kind of like it and then all of a sudden didn't like it? Oh, just talk about Beachhead. We'll go back a second. In Beachhead, I found a lush planet to which I moved my portal worlds one, converted it to a swamp planet. Now my portal planet's on the... Yeah, that's just No Man's Sky for you. I mean, can we blame the expedition? No. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I don't want to judge them based on the Reduxes, but the Redux was really clever in that it introduced other rewards, say for instance the Golden Vector, so that it really did later on become quite a good one for them to rerun. They kind of fixed some of those problems with it and also gave it a load of extra rewards that you couldn't get elsewhere. And I like that idea of using expeditions, kind of rejigging them and putting new elements and new rewards in them so that we can claim stuff that we couldn't otherwise. And Alpha says the fact that you don't have the ship for 90% of the expedition was the shock. Yeah, definitely that was the shock. But it was an interesting thing about it. It was a nice new element to the expedition. Well, we're on the third one, so let's. I kind of have a soft spot for it. It kind of sits. I don't want to start putting things on the gap here, but I really quite enjoyed it. I reduxed it. I reduxed all of them. I did the redux again when it came back, even though I didn't really need to, because I had all of the rewards. I genuinely quite like the idea, but it wasn't brilliantly executed. The Redux had a much better planet that it did it on. You think it's C? Ignition is trying to convince me. I mean, I like the idea of it. It's kind of. Did people just not enjoy it? Did it really kind of. Did it really mess you up? I mean, in the first time we had to play it, that planet wasn't great. It wasn't the best place to do this expedition. Nobody else is joining your campaign yet, Ignition. Yeah, it was. I feel like it's a high B as opposed to a C. Maybe people saying that some people really didn't like it is part of my rules. There were stumbling blocks. There were what are you saying the same, Gary? Hi, Gary 420X. What are you saying same to Gravnor, or that he says he liked it? I'm going to go B. I don't think it's going to be too controversial to go B. Hi, X862 go. I'm going to go B. I don't think it's quite A, just because of the execution. I think it could have been an S. It could have been an absolutely brilliant expedition, but it just wasn't executed brilliantly. I think they had a lot to learn back then about how expeditions should work. And again, it was one of those ones that had people really struggling because they had to discover a new system. There were a few things that just weren't that great about it. Then we come on to an absolutely mind-blowing expedition from my perspective. We hadn't seen anything quite like is it Emergent? Was that the name? Wanted to go to collected knowledge to get them. Yeah, Emergence. So we got the Hungering Worm companion egg and the. Well, I don't care about the title. We got the Hungry Worm companion egg. That wasn't. And as I've already said, that I'm not a big fan of the rewards. And I probably still have this pet. Thinking about it, this might be one of the pets I actually kept on this save, which is my oldest. Oh, I've just gone to the wrong place there. Now I'm in third party view that I don't usually do, and I haven't got my normal hotkeys set up, so I need to hang on while I demonstrate how terrible I am at using the thing that I usually have hotkeys for. Maybe I don't have it still. No, I don't seem to. But the worm companion was, if you're going to pick a companion, it's one of the better ones. Not that I'm particularly interested in companion rewards, as I said already. Let's go back to camera view. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I was as I said, was earlier on before you got here, X862 Go. I was thinking, oh, I'll use one of those tier list things online, and I wasn't happy with the idea. And then I thought, why not just use the build system? It's probably the easiest way, and I can come back to it later when they bring out new ones and position whatever I think the new one on it. So I think this is the reason I loved this expedition was that all of a sudden we had a brand new thing in the game that just wasn't in the game otherwise. We had those what were they called? The spawn. Is it the spawn? We had the eggs that fell from the spawn. We had the ability to scan for them. We had a new bit of lore for the what was technically just a Dune ripoff previously. And I really love this. I want to put it S, at the very least A. And it wasn't for any other reason other than it just expanded the game. One of the things I thought was very odd about it was because we didn't have worm planets back then people were thinking, oh, this is even better. It's got a brand new thing in the game. And they were visiting that planet in their normal save, and it wasn't the same. So it taught us that Hello Games can change the planet and can change the systems for the expeditions, which again, I actually found really intriguing and interesting. I'll put the rules up again in a minute, Ignition, because I know a few people didn't see the rules. Voting with my gut, though, I really love this one. I'll put it there, and then we'll go back to the rules. No, not there, not there. Rules. So, my overall idea for the rules are, first of all, the theme. And this is one of the reasons that I really like the Emergence Expedition, is that the theme was very clear. This is the first time we had that idea of kind of something that was running through the entire expedition. How well are they were the phases themed, and how well matched were the individual milestones? The flow and narrative, how logically did the expedition progress, or how well was the story told? Stumbling blocks, were there any milestones that are overly tricky or require extra knowledge outside of the standard player experience? Were there bugs that caused problems? Were the milestones that overly suited the early bird, i.e. people that jumped in early, did they get an advantage? The desirability of the rewards in the quality, utility, and coolness. So what do we actually get, and do we like them? And interactivity, how interactive was the with the community? Was it, how well was the interaction implemented? Were community milestones implemented well or overly punishing? Did they feel fun or a grind? And I put that one last because not all of them are going to fit the interactivity one, because that not all of them are interactive. You can just vote if you think that it deserves an A or a C or whatever. Just vote, and I will take a certain temperature. Obviously, I'm gonna put certain things high if I think they are great, and then I can be convinced downwards. I can be convinced upwards. So if people are saying, oh, they really dislike something, I'll take that into account, for instance. So tentatively, I'm putting that as an S just because of that element. If we go back to the browser, we look at the actual flow of the expedition. We had to follow a worm. So the very first thing we had to do wasn't locate our ship, which was again quite new and interesting. And then we had to go to various systems that had worms, and we had to visit a Titan burrow, which we'd never seen really properly. Um, Survival is not really well themed. Take damage from extreme heat. That's just one of those casual ones that are in lots of things. But getting cursed dust, which is brand new, we'd never seen that before. Um, Reach the third rendezvous, visit a third Titan impact. Whispering eggs, which felt themed. It felt like they were pulling whispering eggs into the same element. Retrieve an archive outs. That doesn't really make a lot of difference. Archive was that on a derelict? Retrieve an archive override implant. It doesn't say where it was. If anybody remembers. Visit the fourth Titan impact, read the writing manuscript. And that was one of the things I liked about it, is that it was giving us these documents. They were kind of scrolls that were giving us a little bit of extra lore that gave us an idea that there was this Viking cult that worshipped the worm. Um, and although it doesn't really impact the game that much, it just felt nice. That was a new thing we had to build. Gather the Valspawn. I mean, with the Atlas, it doesn't really mean anything much to do with the overall story, but I don't remember it having anything that really messed up the flow. I mean, Gravnort liked the worms, and he doesn't like expeditions at all. um, how are you feeling on this one, Ignition? I know you want to have a vote, so you might be behind slightly. I'm not sure. Let's go to exobiology. Now, I don't even remember much about this one. I know that they had brought in the pets not long before, but we had pets because we had them from this expedition, so they must have been around for a little bit, but it felt. Let's have a look at the actual milestones again. Actually, no, first of all, let's look at what the reward was while we're on this page. The Sentinel, again, a companion egg. I'm never really keen on those. As a primary reward, it's very boring. Let's read what it was. I don't have strong memories of this, so it can't have been great. Exobiology is focused primarily on discovering and interacting with the strange and varied alien creatures inhabiting the universe. So usually that would be a great thing for me because I really like fauna, but this season places all exploration on a lonely star system devoid of wildlife, but with a towering bipedal creature companion. I remember liking the creature. It was just a strider, though. There was nothing special about it, but it was a large one. Most of us were given a large one. Um, getting in our starship. Oh, I remember a stumbling block on this one. Early on, I think they fixed it later, but you had to make the companion, you had to change its personality in some way. You had to make it like you, perhaps, or be friendly, and it just took forever. And in the end, they had to change it. Genetically modified companion egg. Feed a group of 10 creatures. Discover 10 flying creatures. Take a photo of the ground creatures. Earn complete trust. See, it's well themed. It's just not greatly implemented, I don't think. Reach the third. Acquire 3 types of egg. Milk. Bake delicious. That acquire 3 types of egg was a little bit of a stumbling block for some newer players that didn't really know what that meant. Prevent curse with an outstanding cooking product. That's always going to be difficult. I remember some people getting that straight away with just a carbon nanotube, just because it's so random whether or not Kronos likes anything. Adopt a beetle companion, adopt animal companions, discover creatures in a swamp world, discover underwater creatures, embrace. They're all basic. They're all okay and easy, really. 13 or more species of fauna. I think one of them probably had it in a rendezvous. Fly companion, discover exotic creatures, earn standing with the Explorers Guild. So there's nothing poor there. It's a little bit grindy. I'm going to go. I wasn't particularly fond of this, even though I should have loved it because I like fauna. I'm going to go C unless anybody strongly objects. You can object even after I've talked about it, but these were just I don't know. It just felt. I remember defending it at the time, but it wasn't great. It wasn't compared to what we'd just seen. This was one of the lower, less interesting ones, unless anybody has got some strong opinions on it. So we've got the exobiology. No, that's not it. I was trying to pick that one up. Well, moving. I don't want to move it. I've deleted it now. Blighted. Blighted. I need to remind myself what blighted was. Hunt down a rampaging pirate faction and uncover their secret treasure. Yeah, I remember that being relatively well themed. And this had the outlaw cape. So this was early when capes had just been introduced. Let's read some of the notes. I don't have a strong opinion on this one, I don't think. Aligns with the piratical theme of the Outlaws release, travelers will follow the trail of a pirate faction known as the Blight and their mysterious treasure, gathering clues and decrypting milestones. So it had elements of following a story, a bit like Emergence did, and some of the others would do later. So it had a reasonable theme. Expedition item. These are very bland, and for some reason I can't look across. Let's have a look at the later awards. Wayward Cube plans. Nothing great. Outlaw poster plans. It had a cape, and the capes were quite new back then. So it probably felt, and this one was kind of raggedy and ripped from memory. Let's have a quick look, see if I haven't got don't really want to start building a an appearance modifier. So it had a theme. Had a slightly underwhelming reward that we were kind of interested in back then, but probably aren't now. Does anybody have any strong feelings about Blighted? If I don't have strong feelings, I'm thinking it's a B. I'm going to put it there, but... Oh, sorry. Let me just pull that wiki screen off. You reckon build the appearance modifier? I mean, I did pull in a ship when we're talking about the ship, so maybe it's worth it. Just depends if I've got all of the resources to build one. Yeah. Where is it again? Here, yes. So we had a bit of backpack. Outlaw cape. So of the capes, is one of my favourite capes. I use this in my permadeath save because it feels kind of well themed with permadeath. If I was in abandoned mode, I might choose this cape. Yeah, I agree with you, Gary. 420. The Normandy warping in was crazy, and I'd never even played Mass Effect, but the idea of just doing that was absolutely crazy. I just felt that a cape as an expedition is a little bit underwhelming, but it was a good one. Where are we? If I still had my my worm, I would have brought that out, but I didn't have the worm. So where were we? We were trying to position. We don't really need to do that. Let's go back to the browser a second. But it was reasonably well themed. It had a good pirate theme. I just don't really have any strong opinions on it as an expedition. So that doesn't feel appropriate really, but I guess sunken treasure, isn't it? It's like get treasure, which does kind of work. Sentinel killing. Shoot down 32 pirates. So you're fighting against pirates. Yeah, and the more and more I look at it, the less I like it, to be honest. I'm going to put it lower. Unless anybody really, really likes this, let's put it C. And Ignition agrees. So, yeah, got your vote too. It was okay, but I mean, I like all expeditions, just to qualify, isn't it? It's not that putting C means I didn't like it. It just means that it wasn't, for me, it wasn't one of my favourites at all. If anybody wants to move it around, then let us know. In the meantime, we will go to the next one. which is the Leviathan Expedition. Now, Leviathan was absolutely mind-blowingly different in every way. And as the icon suggests, time was involved, and it put us into a time loop. So this one was really, really controversial when it came out, because it said, although it wasn't quite, it said it was a permadeath expedition. And back then you didn't have like the ability to change your settings. So this was very much at the level of permadeath. It was a survival expedition, really. They called it a permadeath expedition. And you had to die in order to progress. Now, I remember people getting quite close to the end. In fact, I know that some people run these in what's it called? Using a mod. And I remember somebody getting quite upset that they had to die, that they had died towards the end, and they felt like they'd have to do the whole thing again, which isn't quite how it worked. It wasn't actually quite as punishing as it appeared. When you died, you could get a lot of your things back by revisiting your bases, etc. One of the reasons I really liked this expedition was that I actually asked for this kind of thing. I wanted an expedition where if we died, we could regain some of our stuff. I actually asked for it. I think I might even have put a request out for this kind of thing. So when they did it, I was very, very happy that they were at least on the same wavelength. I doubt they did it because of me, because it came out pretty quickly after, and there's no way they could have written this expedition that quickly. But it meant that they were on a similar wavelength to me. And I've got a lot of fond memories of doing this expedition. It had the Leviathan as a reward, which is an absolutely excellent reward as far as I'm concerned, just because it introduced that idea of living frigates. I would love a living freighter. I love all the living stuff. I'm one of the people that really, really likes living ships, for instance. And I know a lot of people find them quite boring and unsatisfying, but I really like them. I like the theme of them. I like the look of them. I like the utility of them. Yep, you did have to kill yourself. You did have to kill yourself really, really early on, which was odd. The time loop thing was just completely mind-blowing, in that this is a brand new way to play the game. I just loved it. I'm going to shove it up there as S. Ignition has never done it, but thinks it's an S. So I mean that tells you that it's intriguing. I know a lot of people hated it. They're like, I don't play this game in order to play difficult stuff, but it wasn't quite as difficult as it seemed. It was more forgiving than it seemed, and just generally it was a very interesting expedition. It wasn't just that we were suggesting it. I remember Beeblejum suggesting that, and we'd been suggesting it on Reddit as well. It wasn't just that we suggested that you had to die in the first minute. The game actively encouraged you. If we look at the milestones, um, it was like the fourth milestone, die. So the game was actively encouraging you to kill yourself early, and it made sense to kill yourself early, because if you killed yourself too late, you would have to regroup and recoup a lot of some of your losses. Although, as I said, it was more forgiving than it first seemed. But yeah, killing yourself very, very early on was a good idea. Right, so where are we? Wait, move on, because well, some of us do actually read what we have to do and follow the rules. So, Polestar Expedition. Now, this was interesting. It had the this was the one where we start off in a freighter, I believe. And for some people, they didn't even have a freighter, or early on when people are using it as a brand new save, to be given a freighter up front is a great boon. So it was an interesting one. Card of Helios companion egg again. I mean, that was probably the worst companion egg we were ever given, just because you kind of are floating on it in a weird way. I just realised I might have some of these companion eggs in one of my on this save. Let me just have a quick look. Why can't I summon the Colossus here? No, I haven't. Of course, I haven't actually. This is my old, very OP original save, but I don't actually have a summoning station here. I'm so used to not having to worry now. No, I thought I had some eggs in here, but obviously not. I must have hidden them somewhere. Probably in one of my ships, but I'm not going to start looking everywhere. I had a hunch that they were in there. I think they were at one point on this save. Yes, it was where you got the Singularity Drive. And that in itself is slightly controversial because some people want it in the main game. I don't get why. It doesn't really do anything different. All it does is it takes you to the destination of the black hole of the region you're in, so you don't have to visit the black hole to jump to the destination of the black hole. But that's not a major boon. It was just useful in the expedition as a part of the story. Let's pull up the browser again. I remember liking it at the time. You had to restore critical systems, but you had to go straight to a planet. So it didn't try and keep you in space. It tried to get you getting out onto planets, which is a good idea if you're going to start on a freighter, that you don't keep it too closely themed. Install a storage room into it. Taught some of the basics. It's taught, for instance, the different rooms on a freighter. Visit another freighter was a potential stumbling block. Some people were like, I'm never going to play. It's just like, well, why don't you just go to a system and say out loud, anybody want to help with the hospitality? Shall we visit each other's freighters? You can get it done quite quickly and easily. It's not that tricky. But some people hated the idea of actually having to interact with somebody. Installed as an extractor room. Again, it's focusing on what the freighters can do. Mine 50 asteroids. Was this around about the time when they introduced the new build parts for freighters? I can't remember. I'm not sure if it was. Polestar Expedition will take players on a cruise across the galaxy in their capital ship, forsaking starship warping and planetary base building in favor of the life of heavy shipping freighter captain. Polestar Expedition offers the chance to earn an exclusive freighter engine customization, new base parts, including a flaming barrel, an excellent reward, a unique cape design, a mysterious jellyfish companion, and much more besides. The cape and the flaming barrel is for builders is almost like a core building part these days. Players have entirely completed an expedition may now end the expedition early and convert the save to a normal mode. So it's a new ability. You can see chat bubbling away in my peripheral vision. Yeah, a lot of people would like to play alone, so I do understand that people didn't want to interact, but it forced people to for the first time. Freight Frontiers was build parts. I remember updates, not expeditions. Yeah, it was okay. It was new and interesting way of running an expedition. The rewards were okay. One of the rewards, which was the burning barrel, is a lot of people's favorite building part. It's very, very good for utility wise. It's great for the dark because it can illuminate a room really easily, and with a good piece of environment to it, it feels kind of quite a natural light and a slightly flickering light. It's an excellent build part. The cape, which one was it? It wasn't the whale stalker. That was again another Leviathan one. I forgot we got that. Must have been that one, Fleet Commander's cape. It's actually quite a nice cape, actually. The metallic element in the center is really nice. So like that if I make it that metallic gold color, really stands out. It's probably one of my favorite capes. Try and catch it in the light, that's better. I keep doing that. Minimize the browser a second. Yeah, so this is the cape. It's not liking my multi-tool. It's going straight through that when I'm in shoot mode. They really have slightly made it weird the way the cape moves. Now it kind of goes in one particular direction on a planet, and there shouldn't even be any wind on this planet. It should just hang still, but nope. Yeah, I really like this cape. That metallic nature of the star. That I've chosen yellow for that, and that really stands out lovely. Let's just quickly have a look at different options. If we change that, see the metallic colors can really stand out if you've got a good contrast. Yeah, so it's a nice it's a nice reward. Whether a cape is a good reward, but that wasn't the main reward, was it? What did we say it was? It was the one of the companion eggs, wasn't it? Just looking through the chat a second. Let's have a quick reminder. I have to keep an eye on the fact I don't leave this on the screen this time. But it was unique cape, a mysterious jellyfish companion. The companion was the worst companion ever. Flaming barrel was good. Cape design. I do like the rewards. I can't pretend I don't like the rewards because I like the flaming barrel. Does that make the expedition that good? It could have been a bit better. The rewards could have been a bit better themed for freighters, I guess. I don't remember this being a great expedition. It doesn't stick out to me as one of my favorites. You can't get the flaming barrel at the Quicksilver vendor, unfortunately. It's that is a probable negative, I think, about the Polestar exhibition, is that you're giving away an excellent piece of building part, and then you can't get it easily. So that's not a great thing to do, I don't believe. There's another one. Which one gave away the cave part? That was earlier, I think. If anybody can remember, the cave creeper. This is one of the most flexible parts. I make use of it, for instance, in the butterfly house, because I just love the way you can use it to just kind of hide little bits that aren't quite right, give the whole base atmosphere. And yet it's an expedition reward, so you can't just get it. I do find that a little bit frustrating. Yeah, it doesn't stand out greatly for me. I think it's a B. Ignition seems to think it's a B too, and I tend to agree. Yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know, if there's a building part that other people can get and you can't, you can get them to visit your base and just drop the part. Give them permission to build there, and they can drop the part for you, and then you can copy it, which is the only way around these things sometimes. Eventually, they will probably put it in as a secondary reward in a new reduxed exposition of some kind, but until then, we're kind of stuck having to do that kind of thing. Okay, Utopia. Now, Utopia stands out as an interesting expedition because it was abandoned mode, and it was the beginning of abandoned mode. I am right. That's I know. Yes, Gary 420 says you can also get it in. Put these things in with a save editor if you have access to the PC version and a save editor. And now we're getting cross save being available for more and more people. That becomes more of an option. I've never liked this expedition, but I know a lot of people did love it because of the abandoned mode element. Pardon me. And we wouldn't have abandoned mode without it, I don't think. See, as we've got a clear yes, the Redux was great, S without a doubt. And so I would feel guilty giving it too low because I know a lot of people really love it, but it doesn't stand out for me at all. See, now we've got 2 votes for S. And yet, yes, that's a good point. It wasn't a reward. The Utopia research stations aren't a reward. They're a utility element of the game. Instead of going to the anomaly, we could go to the anomaly, but we couldn't get anything because all of the NPCs weren't there. And just like in abandoned mode now. If you go there, then Nada was deactivated, and there were no other NPCs there, which meant we couldn't use all of the different stations. And so they gave us build stations, a bit like they do in the early game in normal, that allowed us to get ship technology, allowed us to get what else is there? The ship, multi-tool, exosuit, exocraft, and I'm missing one. Think of them actually positioned. 1, 2. No, there are 4. And then, of course, there's the normal one we get in the game. And that element does... some people love that, and they actually get them in their other saves. As just as I'm saying it, Gravnaut says he uses them so many saves afterwards. See, I would not even give this an A, but so many people are saying they love it for various reasons. Then I feel like I'm forced to say it's a good one. And it does bring abandon mode, which I haven't yet played. I will be playing it soon. I'll probably stream that at some point soon. Maybe even this week, to be honest, because we're getting into that period where there's not a lot going on. But yeah, it's a funny one for me, but I can see why people love it. And it is at least different. And it's at least follows a lot of the criteria that I have for my rules, which I'll bring up again. It has a good theme. It flowed quite well. I don't think it had any major stumbling blocks, if anybody can remember. But the rewards are good. Some of the extra things you get are good. And it was generally different, and I like the different ones. So, yeah, I can see why it gets good. I really should have created a button so that I didn't have to keep going out of the game in order to show these things, which is why I keep putting the browser on the screen and leaving it there. Okay, so where are we? Let's move on from Utopia to Singularity. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, Singularity was the beginning of the ARG, in-game ARG, or was it the second part of it? Either way, it was a major part of the new Void Mother storyline. So it definitely wins a lot of points on the way they're using expeditions all of a sudden to tell a broader story. If you look at the history of the story in No Man's Sky, up until I think it was, yeah, up until Origins, I think it was, we had, is it Bannon or Banner? Bannon, the writer. Let's quickly look it up a second so I don't get the wrong name. Greg somebody, wasn't it? Buchanan, that's it. Greg Buchanan. Thank you. And he left around about Origins. If you look at his website, it mentions when he leaves. Yeah, it was approximately when he left, I believe. Maybe slightly later than that. But either way, the story was beginning to change. The way that the way that Hello Games used story in No Man's Sky began to change around about this point, where they started to make the story more about the evolving, kind of almost using a meta plot, which a lot of games do have. But until then, it had very much been an afterthought to bring story in, and then the story was very reflective of the game. But then now, They're using it more as a way of telling a developing story. So I really like that element. Not that I disliked Buchanan's stuff. I really liked the lore of the game. I liked the way that No Man's Sky lore developed and was told. And I think the last thing he probably had a hand in would have been um, the lore in the Colossal Archives. And I really loved the lore in the Colossal Archives. And that did hint on a lot of the stuff that was going to come. But he wasn't actually the writer for a lot of that stuff. So yeah, Singularity for me is somewhere up here, just because of that element of bringing in a new possibility of story, bringing in a good and a new way of approaching expeditions. Ignition says A. I can't select his name because I've gone off of the screen that I usually use. That's okay, I can do it on here. I'm tending towards A as well for the expedition itself wasn't fantastic. If we pull up again the browser, Singularity, they messed up. There was, if we go back to my rules, one of the things was stumbling blocks, and they kind of messed up along the way with the how steep the curve was for getting all of the community rewards. They kind of messed that up early on. They had to change halfway through. They it was a little bit grindy because you had to do the seeds, was it? Towards the end. It confused a lot of people because we'd never had that element of having to open up milestones that we couldn't see. I don't think there were any other milestones at that time previously which were hidden. Actually, no, there was. Thinking about it, we had hidden milestones in possibly Emergent and possibly in it probably had been about 2 or 3 before that, so forget that element. But they used that element, and I think it confused a lot of people because of the way that it was tied to community objectives. Let's have a look at the reward list up here, if there is one on here. Focus on expanding the law, introducing interceptor, and making it a narrative-heavy journey dealing with concepts of artificial intelligence. The player starts it in the harmonic camp. I liked that element, but there was a lot of walking around on planets that was, again, quite controversial. Atlas Seed. Expedition Pass items, blueprints, upgrades, units, and nanites. Let's have a look on the actual game, what it says the main one was. Oops. Construct. Yes, we had the helmets. So we go back to the appearance modifier. Where are they even? Well, that's something we missed. That was an excellent reward. The golden first spawn battle mask. I don't think it would have changed my idea of that particular expedition, but... Is it just not available in normal... in this race? What have I got? Oh, I haven't done the fishing in this one. Of course I haven't. Did it have to be a traveller? Did it have to be the autophage? I mean, it gave us the body parts for the autophage, so some people love that. You can tell how uninspired I was, because I don't even know where the rewards are. Also, phase race the singularity rewards. There's none of these. Ah, is it right at the beginning? Ah, yes. Okay. So it's these two. Yes, they're nice. I'm just not into the autophage as much as some people are. I like them. I wouldn't want to look like one in the game. So I've never really chosen these. They are nice. I know a lot of people like them. The autophage elements themselves are brand new at this stage. Getting the weren't also some of these parts given to us during the expedition. So yeah, I mean, very, very good for character appearance. We show 11. Autophage 11. That one. Kind of almost like a crown, isn't it? My favourite of these autophage looks is the Symphigek. I think that's really cool. Oh, I've left myself looking like that. I'll have to go back to my presets in a bit. But yes, it allowed us to look like this, with two specific heads. That was an interesting thing. You had to choose the head. You only got one or the other of the heads. So that was, I don't think they stuck with that in the end, because people started saying that they could see the other head, even though they hadn't done it twice, or even though they hadn't saved and reloaded to get both, which was the other way around it. There were ways around the system. You had to choose a head, and that was slightly controversial. I don't know. What do people think? I'm not sure how I would rank this one. I love the element of story to it, so maybe an A. I didn't love it. I personally wouldn't put it S. But it's not just about what I thought. So if anybody's got strong opinions, I don't think it's bad enough to be a B. Ignition's voting A. My gut feeling is an A, and we haven't put many things in A, so that's not a good reason. But I'm going to go with A unless anybody has a strong opinion, and then I can always revisit it. So let's move on to Voyages. The update, isn't it? Yes, I think you're right. I think the update itself, that period of the game was absolutely fascinating. It brought in loads of new concepts and kicked us off into a storyline that's technically only just finished with the They Who Returned, or whatever it's called. Whether the expedition was exceptional, it was good. It was definitely at least an A, but I don't think it was an S. Now, I'll put that on the screen because you just said that. And I didn't. So, Voyages. Let's have a look at Voyages as a reward. What we're learning is that just reading the primary reward isn't enough, because it's so often something like a companion egg. So we really do need to look at the wiki as well. Hover droid companion egg. I feel like the hover droid is one of the better ones. It was like the head that floated. Wasn't one of my favorite rewards. I'm not that keen on those things. Let's have a look what else there was on the wiki. Voyages is a relaxing journey of exploration, encouraging travelers to seek out remarkable worlds, reach planetary summits and ocean beds, and catalogue their findings. In a way, this is kind of like a redoing of Pioneers, almost like this is the way we would do it now. The starting was a random C club, blah, blah. Achieving each expedition. See, that's not being very specific, so we're going to have to look down. Electric jetpack trail customization, not a bad one. Posters. We very clearly got into to be confirmed. Not even saying what it is there. Ragged tent plans, some nice parts, but nothing that great. Skull plans. Voyager's deco. It doesn't really suggest what was this one? Anybody remember what the phase 3 was? It must be something better than. Anyway, let's have a quick look at what we had to do. Establish. See, I don't really remember this very well. Adopt some companions, learn some get work. So I think we had to learn the words in each planet. Storm crystals. Yeah, I seem to remember this being more of a. This is what expedition is, almost like a reintroduction to expeditions, because they'd been themed for so long, and this was almost, as I say, it was almost like let's redo pioneers better. Let's do it the way we would do it now. It's like a default one. Visiting blue stars, go to a black hole, aquatic treasure. We've seen that before. I remember Captain Steve reviewing this and saying he really wasn't very pleased with it because it rehashed a lot of things. Yeah, it's kind of middling to low, isn't it? I've got. It's not even that I don't have strong opinions of it, which would make it a B. I actively don't really think it was very important. I feel like it was important in how it kind of reset what an expedition was. It was like their new baseline, but there was nothing special about it. It was, and as I've said before, C doesn't mean I didn't like it. It means that it's just doesn't stand out in the expeditions. I think it's a C. Ignition thinks it's a solid B. Why would you argue above a C? What was good about it that made you feel like it's deserving of mention or merit? Because B is kind of yeah, I can understand that part. The part is nice. Let's see if we can see it. Is it that one and possibly that one? Part's nice, but I've never used it. No, I tell a lie. I've used it once. I used it for an exo, for a multi-tool base. And I think we got that one, which I've seen used greatly for things like beds. You can kind of bury that slightly below a level. If we can't do it there, I'll have to. You can make it look like a bed in a base. Put a headboard on it, put some pillows on it, and it's suddenly a bed. So that's quite a utilitarian piece. Yeah, you can rescale them. They're rescalable parts, which is always good. It's always good to be able to do different things with them. All right, you've convinced me that it's got some other value. It's got a good utility build piece, which is always a good thing. But otherwise, I don't think it's exceptional. So, okay, we'll go with B. So where are we on the list now? I feel like we need to... We're about halfway through. Yeah. I was going to say we need to speed up. We probably don't need to speed up. We just need to kind of pace a bit better. So, Omega Decal, Omega. I need to remind myself what Omega even was. Remember everybody saying, "Oh, it's the last expedition ever." That was that in that kind of way that people are always saying that. Then we're not getting any more updates until we get a new update. Starborn Runner. That's gonna always push it up the list. On the all participating travelers begin a journey together on the beautiful planet Nafut Gamma and plot a course through the galaxy, explore, build, fight, and more through a diverse set of milestones and unpick the threads of a mystery involving the past, the present, and what could be. What was the mystery? Anybody remember what the mystery was? Spawn module. Final phase of all phases tasks you with researching a planet. Oh, blimmin' heck, that was a chore, having to find everything on the planet. After that, go to the Atlas info to upload. This one had a stumbling block early on with the I don't remember. Was this the one that had the no, but it's probably the previous expedition that had that thing about the pH blood. Because it's not on here. Quite a basic expedition. Again, it's kind of a return to the early basics. Anybody remember how to get these rewards visible on the screen when they're off the side? Because changing the size of the thing doesn't work. That's not going to really help. Have a good meal in Ignition. Atlas multi-tool. I've got the rewards on the screen now. Yes, the Atlas Scepter is one of the better rewards in that it's got well, I still use it in other expeditions. It has the have I got it on this save? Doesn't look like it. I mean, I like staffs in general. It was one of the better staffs. As we've since discovered that it used to be more randomized. You could get different versions of it, but now you can only get one version of it. And all the staffs since have been based on exactly the same stats, but can be slightly different in the way that they're presented, but they're the same multi-tool under the hood now. I think it had a decent reward, but it wasn't exceptional. So it's either A or B, I think. But then it had the Starborn Runner, and the Starborn Runner is my favorite ship of all time. So that pushes it high between A and S. I can't just give it S just because it had the Starborn Runner. So my hunch is A, just because of the rewards. We've got a pitch for it just getting S because of the Starborn Runner. And I can kind of see that. I almost want to give it S just for the reward. But then if you think about it, it was just a newer version of what was the other ship that we had before that I didn't mention as we went past it? The Star Wars looking ship. And I just don't feel like I should. It's definitely sitting here because of the reward, but I think it's an A. Alphas reckons it's an A as well. My hunch is the overall expedition is not great, but it's pulled up. Yes, Utopia's speed thing. It's kind of the same ship, but then of course that was also the same. Again, it was the same under the hood as all the other ships. But then they start to change the ships after this. Yeah, I think it's an A. I don't think we can push it all the way to S just for the Starborn Runner, but the Starborn Runner is by far my favorite reward of all of the expeditions. Adrift. No, I haven't got the thing on the screen again, so I plumped for A. So it's there. Ignition would have given it an S as well. See, I agree on the previous ones, but no, I just don't see it. I can't give it that high just because of it. Anyway, yeah, I understand you mean the Omega Ignition. Okay, Adrift. So let's have a look at what Adrift had. There will be a bit at the end where we can reevaluate and decide if things go up or down. So, right, Adrift, the Iron Vulture. Again, an excellent reward. Not my favourite ship, but I do have it here. And one of the reasons it's such a great ship don't think I've, yes, I do have them, is its engines. They look great. They tilt with the tilt of the ship, which is quite subtle, but it's there. It hovers, so as you saw it, I was stopped in flight. I mean, when I say it hovers, they go very, very slowly. They don't completely stop. None of them completely stop, but they go as slow as possible. I'm not quite sure why I've got that weird sparky trail on it. Many people saw this ship as a bit of a nod to another nod to Star Wars, in that it looks a little bit like the what's the name of the ship? The bounty hunter ship. My Star Wars knowledge has never been great. I'm partly because I'm not very good with names. I never have been. Boba Fett's ship has a name, doesn't it? Anyway, so it kind of has that element to it. It's a nice ship. It's a nice overall reward. Let's have a look at the browser. I almost feel like in the future, what I'm going to have to do with the browser is have a button that puts a timer on the screen so that it disappears after a minute if I forget. No, I'm not thinking of the Millennium Falcon Boundary Herald. I'm thinking of the name of Boba Fett's ship. Anyway, so Adrift. Players starting this will start on a planet with a derelict freighter in the sky, with their starship a few hundred units away from their spawn. Random shuttle. Oh, I hated having to use the shuttle. That was the most annoying element. Installed technologies, launch thruster and pulse engine damage, rocket launcher. This is all basic stuff. I wish they'd have a more standardized element on this wiki. All right, let's look at what the actual milestones were. Reach the ship, installed an advanced mining laser, installed personal refiner, leave the planet, abandoned station, attain light speed, mine 40 asteroids. Stealth paint was a great thing, as we built a different version of the Vulture in a recent stream using the stealth paint. Oh, no, not using the stealth paint. They're using the Titan one. But yeah, the stealth paint is great. Interact with a holographic comms tower, download data to the mind arc, perform vital salvage, repair free slot mark. These are all very basic things. The wreckage base parts, they're quite nice. They're not my favourite base part. Activate pulse engine while in space. Harvest free radiant shards. Ancient bones. I can't see any obvious stumbling blocks. Ancient ruins, crystal sulfides, sunken freighter. No, that's not. That wasn't a stumbling block really. Pulse engine, crash freighter, frigate. Oh, ship of the damned frigate for a phase reward. That's pretty good. Discover 32 creatures, hungering tendrils, locate a lost traveler. As an explorer, cook your own food. Drift towards eternity. Reach the final rendezvous. It wasn't a bad expedition. Razor Crest. Okay, thanks. So it doesn't even ring a bell. So that's just how poor I am at my Star Wars knowledge. I don't know, where does this one sit? To me, it would be meh. It would be right down here somewhere because I don't really remember it being that great. But does anybody have any strong ideas of Adrift? At the end of Adrift, I spent all of my remaining units on suspicious tech and arms packets, which you were getting at all space station terminals, and turned that back to my permasave. Again, when did that start? When did it start that we could then? Was it the previous one with the Starborn Runner, the Photonics core, of course, when we were able to take things back to our main save? Oh no, it was before that even, wasn't it? It was Omega was the first one. Should have given extra points to Omega for that, really. The fact that we could start it from our main save was a great innovation. Why do you think it's absolutely S-class ignition? I don't get it. I mean, it had the Vulture. Not my favorite ship. I can see why people love it, but Frigate is good. Yeah, it had a nice start to it. See, I'm putting it down here, but you're convincing me that there must be some redeeming factors and the rewards are pretty good. So I can push it up to an A, I think. So unless anybody has any really strong opinions other than Ignition saying it should be an S, then we'll stick it there. Liquidator. Now, I feel like Liquidator was excellently themed. Had some very, very interesting parts to it. The rewards were interesting in that we're suddenly transforming our mech into something that looks very different. Again, kind of similar to the main gameplay in Taste of Metal, but was it Taste or Taint of Metal? But different. So we had another element. It started introducing. It was around about the time when they were introducing the newer creatures. So the some of the planets, the floating islands, and the creatures were interesting. We had the bugs, of course. The theming was absolutely on point. I loved the theming. Can I give it an S for that? I don't know. It was one of the most enjoyable ones. Let's have a quick look. Wrong place. Oh yeah, of course we have the Chitlin stuff as well. See, everything I'm thinking of is pushing this one up. I still wear in my main. I probably have messed it up now. My main look. But let's have a look at the Chitlin parts. First of all, no, I haven't got it even on there. So my normal torso, not torso, armor. My normal armor is always that armor now, because I just love the look of it. And some of the patterns on this armor are amazing. I mean, this is just like top tier work by the design team, as far as I'm concerned. Probably usually use that blue. Can't even remember what my standard look is for this, but I'll stick with that. And now let's go out of it and come back in. These mandibles and jaws, and of course we got the base parts. Yeah, I'm talking myself into an S here, even though I wouldn't necessarily say that the expedition itself was the best. But there were so many excellent things about this one. Didn't have a chest, did we? Chilling. I mean, I'm not into this, but I know a lot of people are. Don't think we... Yeah, we did have... We had the boots is the equivalent of the feet, isn't it? They got those strange spurs. Has a backpack. I mean, we missed the fact that we had this royal backpack in one of the expeditions. Yeah, I'm skewing towards S here. Anybody has any objections to this one being an S? Save changes. No. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of the overall look of the let's call it in, because I probably still have it on that appearance, the Minotaur. What am I doing? It's an exocraft. So this new look for the Minotaur, it was, I mean, it was interesting and well executed. It's not my favorite look. I probably stopped playing this at this particular save around about then. So this is probably the last time I ran an expedition from this save, which is why I still have it. And haven't changed its appearance again. But it is a well executed and well done appearance, even if it's not my favorite. I can't criticize that. That is excellent. It's very military looking. Chosen blue, but it looks really good in greens. Other people, Ignition saying yes as well. I loved the fact that they basically were nodding towards. I've lost my ball. There we go. They were nodding. My brain's lost the name of the game that it. I mean, obviously it's Starship Troopers, but it was also around about the time of Hellblazers 2, which was a hugely popular game. And so it came out at exactly the right time. Yeah, I think it's S. I don't think you can put it anywhere else. Yeah, the delay worked in my favor there, Ignition, because I just got it out before it popped up on my screen, the answer. So, right, Aquarius. It's fishing. You might think that that means I didn't like it, but I actually really liked this one. The theme was good. It was continuing on the good progress of the way that Liquidators was structured, going from place to place, getting an extra piece of information, in this case, letters in a bottle. It helped introduce fishing and how it worked, which was a clever way of doing it. What we got? We got parts I probably don't have. I probably started moving into a different save to do my expeditions at this point. Aquarius flight pack. Let me see if I've got it on this save. What we do, backpack. Cool. Of course, I've got it on the save because I've got them all on the save, haven't I? It's quite a nicely produced backpack. What I really didn't like, these boots. If you're going to do a lot of underwater exploration, then yeah, they look fine, but they don't look fine otherwise. They just look weird to me. But, you know, people like them, I'm sure. It was a complete set again, wasn't it? I think there was just one part missing on this one. Doesn't have gloves. You got to give it extra marks for giving us a complete set, though. Maybe it didn't have as many pieces as I remember. It had the diving helmet, the newer diving helmet. Which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer the original diving helmet. The Lost Bathysphere. I prefer that one. But it goes with it, so... But yeah, I applaud a lot of the things about this expedition. I can't give it too low a score. I wouldn't say it was a favourite, but it was themed well. It fits a lot of my rules. If we look at my rules again, just as a reminder, pulling it up in the wrong place. Why are my rules not coming up? Oh, because I haven't got it maximized. There we go. It was well themed. It had good flow. It flowed from system to system. There were no overly tricky. I mean, it was fishing. There are some. It does start to have a few stumbling blocks in that fishing can be a little bit of a problem for some people, and it does take a while, and it can be a bit random. The desirability of the rewards was pretty high, and it was. Did it have an interactive element? I don't remember it having an interactive element, so you can't mark it down for not having that. So I think it marks quite highly, but it's not one of my personal favorites. I give it a C because they could have made the fishing more skill-based other than just one-arm bandit casino machine. Just pull the handle and see what you get. It's not quite that. There's an element of knowledge. You have to know where to find certain types of things. You have to understand the depths. You have to understand the relative difficulties of finding certain things. You've got the hologram that can allow you to pull your bait back. It's not quite a slot machine, but I agree that it could have had a better skill level there. I'm sorry, I thought I just turned that off, so I was going to turn it off. I don't think it's quite as bad as that. See, my inclination is because of the good theming and all of it fits all of my rules. I think it gets better than a B. I can see someone saying C, someone saying B, Ignition saying B. I'm trying to push it up to an A, but it doesn't sound like it was particularly anybody's favorite. Tell you what I didn't like about it. I didn't like having to fly around in a hauler. And it wasn't easy to get hold of another one on that one, I think. And maybe we could early on. I don't know. That was one of the elements I didn't like. And I think there was something else about it. Let's have a quick look at the milestones a second to see if I can remember one of the other reasons I didn't like it. Passing off, leave the planet, reach the first angling site, catch the first 5 fish. I like that. And I did this a number of times. I can't give it too low a score. I think I completed this 4 times in different versions. I did it in the on the first day as an expedition straight up with on a normal save, new save. I did it in 2 different other saves, and then I redid it as a new save again. It's probably why I got sick to death of fishing after a while, because I overdid this expedition. It has leggings. I didn't put the leggings on, I don't think. No, I did put the leggings on. That's the thing. I don't love fishing. I got sick to death of it after a while. But I don't think it was implemented that badly. It seems to be controversial. Let's give it a B for it. It's got an element of controversy that I do understand, in that the fishing wasn't perfectly implemented. We couldn't have aquariums, for instance. There were other elements that make it not quite the best expedition in terms of how it's structured. I personally would push it higher, but it seems like there's a definite. Oh, now so Alphys is coming in with an A. Give me a good reason why it's an A, other than what I'm saying, or backing up what I'm saying. Because I don't know. I'm so close to an A. I'm not gonna give anything pluses and minuses. We've got to go between these 2 boxes, otherwise there's no point of a tier system. Yeah, I'm going to go for B. Unless Alpha suddenly says something and I think, yes, you're right. We'll stick it in there for now. Cursed. We all have issues with fishing. F, says Gravnort. See, he's pushing me down still. Yeah, we do have issues with fishing. Cursed Decal. Cursed. I just reading the name. It's reminding me that I can read it in the books on the right hand side. Cursed. Now, Cursed was again quite controversial. I thought it was absolutely brilliant because it just did something very different and very unique. And the fact that we don't have that cursed element in the game yet is slightly frustrating, but I can see why they probably would want to have waited until after the Redux and then bring it in later on, maybe this year or next year. So I can, similar to the way they did with Emergence, and bring in those elements later on. What were the reward? What was the main reward? Keep going to the wrong page. Here we go. There we go. It was the Boundary Herald. It's a nice ship. I probably still have it on my save here. I think it's a little bit too Millennium Falcon for its own good. I'm not sure how you can give a tribute to the Millennium Falcon without looking like the Millennium Falcon. So there's that. I'm not even sure if I have it on this save. I don't have it on this save. We probably need to at least look at a picture. But there we have a picture of the Boundary Herald. It's on somebody's YouTube, so I'm not going to look at that. But it is a lovely designed ship, but it is very, very similar and familiar. And we can all tell immediately where that design came from. Some people were like hopeful that it would become a new type of ship. It is a shame that they didn't introduce a UFO type. They could have done that, but they didn't. I definitely agree with that Boundary Herald, lots of people like it, but people don't tend to use it. You don't often see it in the anomaly. I mean, as I said before, I stopped doing expeditions necessarily from this save a while ago. I started doing them in a different save, in my Omega save that I did all expeditions in from that point on. And so I can't show it to you, but we've seen the picture. I wouldn't go out of my way to get it in this save. Let's have a quick look at the rules for the expedition just to see if there's anything, because I'm not really sure where I would put this one. I mean, my main, despite the reward, I think this was one of my favorite expeditions. That element of the cursed and the way that we had to see like a different reality was absolutely excellent. My negative about that is that it didn't really tie us back to any actual lore. It brought in its own lore, but it wasn't like new, unique lore that we could kind of bring into the main game and think of No Man's Sky in a different way. It kind of played with lore without really being a foundational shift, like for instance we've seen more recently with things like They Who Returned, etc. Ravnort makes the point that it's the only ship they brought back to their main save. So again, it suggests that people do like it. Even if I haven't got it on this save, I do keep it on my freighter in my other save. I didn't store it, and I stored nearly everything, and I didn't store that. So there's something to be said about that. I can't get away from the fact that I really enjoyed this expedition. I loved the theming of it. I wish that some of it was now in the main game. I assume it will be one day. Much like Emergence, I think it's an excellent innovation and new and different. And if all expeditions were a bit like this and Emergence, I would be bored and it wouldn't be very good fun. But having at least one of these great ones every year or so, I think these are the expeditions I really enjoy. So we're nearly towards the end. Titan. Now, it's almost a recency thing that I can't remember much about with Titan. So let's remind ourselves what Titan actually entailed. We got the Wraith. Okay, so yeah, this is the one that I continued afterwards because I thought the rewards were interesting. And I thought it was a good, interesting setup, even if we didn't get the best things for it. The Wraith is an absolutely... I can't, again, bring it onto this save because I haven't been playing this save. So we're going to have to, again, look it up. Maybe if we go to the actual expedition itself. That's not going to be too far down now, is it? We got these new Foss-inspired paints. Excellent. Pretty nice cape. I'm a bit over capes now, but it's a pretty nice one. Titan staff, I don't... We're not in Titan yet, are we? I'm skipping ahead, aren't I? Titan's the most recent one. Cursed. Here we are. No, we on cursed Titan or cursed, or I've lost track. Relics is the most recent one. Titan, yes, thank you. Yeah, the Titan was the one that I recently extended. We have the Wraith, and I had to look at the board then just to be sure. And we're given an excellent reward in the ship. I don't think the multi-tool was great, but then you could upgrade it and it would be great at S-class. So it is a pretty good browser screen isn't in the way. I'm using the browser. Sorry, I just went back into the game to try and remind myself where I was. I think the rewards are great. I thought the expedition was okay. It was a little bit marred and had a stumbling block if we go by my rules, in that when it started introducing us to the gas giants, there was a real difficulty of finding the right planet, and we had to go to every planet. And in fact, they introduced the ability to mark planets entirely based off of that difficulty. So there was a bit of a stumbling block there. My inclination is A. If you weren't at the level of... If you weren't playing the game with all of the story and couldn't do the actual mission in the story, then this was a great introduction to a lot of things you couldn't see otherwise. But a lot of us older players were seeing them, so it didn't introduce them entirely. You could get them in the main save as well. I'm going to go with A. It's a good, solid, well done, well themed, kind of a narrative without really being too much of a story. Had a huge stumbling block in the water, but they did fix it relatively quickly. Yeah, I'm comfortable with an A. And then we're right up to date with Relics. Now this skews high just because of my rules. Again, if I pull the rules up, it's well themed. It's clearly a paleontological expedition. The flow and the narrative work quite well. You go to each place, you get given a specific set of bones to find, you build them, you move on. So the flow is quite nice. The narrative kind of works. It would be better. I mean, they gave us all of the translation, but it would have been better if we could have just read what the NPCs were saying instead of relying on the translator, which I'm not quite sure why they chose that. That's a strange decision, but maybe they were letting people know what the translator did and the fact you can stack them, which seems to be one of those pieces of almost myth busting. We have to explain it over and over again that you can stack them because people don't think you can or it makes any sense. Were any milestones overly tricky or require extra knowledge? There was that one strange one. It feels like there should have been some underwater fossils and there weren't. So that's very odd. So you could theoretically get some bones on that planet. Apparently there were islands, but it's quite hard to find islands on underwater planets, and it feels like they should have been some underwater relics. Ignition thinks it's B. I don't know if that's controversial. I definitely don't think it's an S. So kind of arguing between A and B is not controversial, I don't think. My hunch is A, just because it skews high based on my criteria. The desirability awards, the rewards, the Wraith is excellent. The staff is okay. I'm not that keen on the appearance, but we should look at them because we've been looking at the appearances, especially the bigger sets. A lot of people like the helmet. I've noticed a lot of people using the helmet, especially with this chitlin armor, because it kind of goes if you match the colors. Then it can go quite nicely with the chitlin armor. This one actually has a pretty complete set, which they really went out of their way to design everything. I guess it's not that difficult a design in some ways, although I'm not a designer, so I'm not going to say it was easy. It included a backpack. You can never knock the fact that they include backpacks because that's above and beyond including a backpack as far as I'm concerned. I like the backpacks. So yeah, the rewards are good. They're solid, and excusing the pun, they're very solid. Can't really knock it for that. Oh, sorry, I just did it again. Let's revisit those. Go back to there, and we'll go over those again. So, head. The Livingstone head is pretty solid, and you can match it with the chitlin armor. I think it works fine. Also, with the armor as well so that we can see it. So the torso is pretty well designed, I think. It's kind of very No Man's Sky but retro, and it's similar to the Stone Guardians. Put everything on and go back to that longer view. Now, I don't think the backpack is great, but I think it's pretty good. It is what it is. It does what it says on the tin. And overall, I think a lot of people like this armor. I've seen a lot of people using it. I've seen lots of screenshots where people are using parts of it, especially the helmet. So I think, and the fact that every single piece was available is great. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but none of the looks are for everybody. I've seen some people sporting the whole thing because they like it. I've got I kept it in the save for a while, just to kind of evaluate it. Um, what else were we saying about it? Need to remind myself the head is definitely the best part. I need to remind myself what we actually got from this one, apart from that. I think I probably it's not on there because it's new. I think it was quite well themed, and I like the overall structure, but it doesn't stand out to me as one of the best. But it doesn't stand out to me as one of the best. But it's pretty good. I think it's A just for its. I think this is the way I think of it. I feel like Hello Games are getting better at expeditions as time goes on. I mean, even I would have put the fishing one higher. I feel like recently they've been very, very high quality, and I've got very little that I would say I dislike about them. Um, and I think this is a continuation of a really good run of expeditions. So I personally would give it an A. While we're talking about rewards, one of the things I don't even need to go down to the appearance modifier. Someone remind me where we got this helmet, the Wayfarer helmet. That must have been um, kind of about halfway down the list of expeditions, but I missed it at the time. And this is one of my favorite appearances of all time, the Wayfarer helmet. I love this. Does anybody remember exactly which expedition it came from? I missed it as we went past it. I didn't mention it. My guess is it's somewhere around here. Singularity. So Singularity was. Let's remind ourselves which one Singularity is. That one. So yeah, we gave it. Yeah, it's an A. I mean, that's probably wouldn't increase it just because it's got my favorite helmet, but I really love this helmet. It's my favorite look. I wish. Well, I think it goes perfectly with that. That's another thing we missed. That I Does anybody remember where we got the royal backpack? That was early, wasn't it? We've had that for a long while. Yeah, it came back again. It was repeated in probably um Omega. Singularity. Yeah. Somebody did say singularity. So again, it can't be singularity, can it? Have a look at the actual. It does seem a bit weird, as you say, that we got 3 helmets from Singularity. I wouldn't doubt Assistant for No Man's Sky though. I know we got it again later. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to assume that that's correct. You did say Singularity Ignition, and so did Alphys. So I personally couldn't remember. No, sorry, I've got drifted off of topic, haven't I? We're talking about the wing pack now. So that was where's the search on this? Equipment. What's it called? The backpack, exotic. Exobiology. Oh, that's one of the ones we've marked really low. I've given that a C. And yet it's got my favorite backpack. I can't mark it up just for that though, but I do love the backpack. And they did give it out again later, didn't they? Kurt doesn't have an inside track into thing as far as I know. He's gone very quiet recently. I hope he's okay. Could be that he's been employed by Hello Games. That would be a good reason to go quiet. But I don't think he does have an inside track. I think his he just uses a lot of resources that allow him to see things on their servers in a clever way. So that's it. That's my list with your help. So obviously some of these things have been drifting based on other people's opinions. I would do a quick question to those of you there before we finish up. What is everybody's absolute favorite reward from all of the expeditions? What do people really still value today? I mean, obviously mine, we've already talked about them. I'm wearing 2 of them. I'm wearing 3 of them here. The Chitlin armor, the Wayfarer's helm, and the winged backpack, the exotic wing backpack. And I love the Wraith, and I love the Starborn Runner. And of all of those, Starborn Runner is my absolute favorite. I love that. And it's immediately obvious to anybody that's ever watched me stream because I'm almost always flying it. So I would say the Starborn Runner. It's a beautiful piece of design work based on a classic game. It's just nothing, and I didn't even play it, but there's just nothing not to like about this ship as far as I'm concerned. I like the Phoenix version. Titanic Trophy, that's an interesting one. Let's quickly show you the Titanic Trophy. That was available from one of the earlier expeditions, but also, strangely, it was available in this expedition, this most recent Relics expedition, but only as a part. So it looked like you could only build it once, but you could, if anybody notices, because they don't make a feature of it, you could hover over it in your inventory and make duplicates of it. So you could make more than one. But if you built it, then you were stuck. Couldn't use it anymore. It is a very nice building part. It's got that lovely electric glow to it. Electric trail, exotic wing pack, and the doomed frigate, I presume. Maybe we should go to the anomaly now and just look at the actual rewards in detail on the anomaly before we finish off, in case we missed anything obvious. Like I clearly did miss a few things along the way because we had to remember where a few things were. Most essential. Let's put a few of these on the screen. Let's start. So Grabnaut reckons the Titanic trophy is one of his favourites. Ignition, electric trail, exotic wing pack, and a damned frigate. The electric trail. One is the electric trail. Get rid of that one a second. I don't like that one anyway. You mean the temporal starship trail? Stealth trail? Or do you mean on the backpack? The exosuit, not the ship. Yep. Okay, let's have a look. What I'm using. I don't know. Backpack. I'm using the discordant trail. Electric. So, okay, the one that sparks. Let's try it out, shall we? Yeah, it's kind of similar to the one I like. It's very nice. And it goes with my blue. Whereas the one I was using was the discordant one, just because I like purple and it goes with my overall look. But I think it's a very similar, just not quite as sparky. Where were we? Alpha's most essential is the Atlas Scepter, the Stolen Runner, most liked exotic wing pack, most interesting reward. I hope I have, but not that valuable sandworm egg. I wanted to look at the sandworm, but what I could potentially do, I know I can't because I've deleted the saves. I used to have a lot of these saves saved up, but I've deleted them and backed them up because they were just taking up so much space, so I can't easily show that. I've got to a place anyway. Let's go to the actual rewards. See, I specifically don't grab a lot of these things because I don't find them that interesting. Like the sandworm egg, for instance. What I could do, if I make a save, and then I can claim it and hatch it. Yeah, I get that blue is a good colour for a trail, personally, because I like blues and purples.
Collectible received.
Everybody knows what they're like. Helios has got a weirdness to it.
Collectible received.
I don't know if I've got enough space for all of these. I might have to.
Collectible received. Collectible received.
As long as I don't make a save, I'll be okay. If I go... How many of them can I hatch here? I hatch them from the thing, don't you? Companion register full, so I'm going to have to get rid of some companions, but it's only be temporary. I think this one mostly had Diplos that I was experimenting with anyway. So we can probably get rid of a few of these. So this was actually rideable. So that was the cool thing about this one. It's quite small in here, but I think it starts off quite small. But after quite quickly, it's probably better off putting them on the planet. So I'll go back to the planet we were on. To be honest, I like the variant of the vanilla sandworm more. Dune look-alike worm. Yeah, you can make variants of them, and they seem to have fixed it because for a while they weren't making good variants for some reason. Which set is it in? There. Now this one, it seemed to me that some people were getting different ones of this early on. And there were a few different variants. Definitely a nice companion. I'm not really into companions, but as companions go, it's not a bad one. And you can't get a worm any other way. Glad you enjoyed it, Ignition. Right, well, the other one that I really like was the... Now, this came out originally blue, so I've got a blue one. No, it came out originally red, so I had a red one. I was really disappointed when they fixed it and made it blue because I really liked the red different look, but now it matches everything, so it's not so bad. But this was a pretty good reward. This was, as far as I'm concerned, I mentioned it, probably the worst reward ever. Because riding it is just weird. That is just wrong. That just doesn't work for me at all. This is broken as far as I'm concerned. Thing. I mean, I can see why this became available. but it's not one of the things that I would actually want. But you couldn't get them any other way, so I guess if people really like them, then they're fair enough. It's a pity it doesn't climb up walls and things like it does on Derelicts. Probably gonna have to delete some now. Okay, a reward, but you can pick them up on planets, so nothing special about these. But you can say the same about quite a few of the more recent ones. Yeah, it is definitely a silly pet. And abandon that. This, I think it probably gets better the bigger it gets. It starts off with that very slightly annoying, well, very annoying, too big a head, which means that if you ride it, you're all over the place. Yeah, that doesn't look right to me. But I think it gets better when it gets bigger, so I'm not going to completely write that one off. Last one I've got here. These you can pick up on planets. So again, there's nothing special about it. I guess it's okay. It's a reward. Did I read the comment? I didn't spot the Angler's Rig. Is that one of your favourites? But yeah, okay. I think you're saying that for reasons. The expedition rewards were also supplemented by Twitch rewards. I would grab a bunch of the Twitch reward ships in later expeditions and scrap them for cash and modules. Kind of. I don't think I ever specifically did that. But what I did do, there was one expedition in the very first, in Pioneers, we got that fighter. There was a Needle, was it? And it was like a silver ship. And it felt like it should have been a reward and wasn't. And they dropped that as a Twitch reward later on instead. So that was quite cool. Silly companion. I've actually got one of my favorite companions is similar to this. Yeah. On the first page, I didn't check what page it was. Yeah, Buggy. This is one of my favorite companions just because it's just fun to run around and have that little thing running around after me. He runs very fast and is kind of cute. But yeah, I don't get the see-through one at all, really. So anyway, let's go back and finish off by just revisiting. Yeah, I can see why the Minotaur AI would work. That's one of the reasons why I liked the dog, the robot dog, because it went with that set. So you could have three things flying around. You could have the dog running around. You could have Laylaps buzzing around, and you could have the AI running around too. So that's my tier list. I'm glad you all enjoyed it, those of you that did, and thanks for keeping me company and letting me know your opinions and helping me choose which tier should go where. And I'm going to end slightly abruptly because I realize the time I've got to do a couple of things in a short while. So travel well, and goodbye for now. Goodbye. Oh yes, restore my save. Thank you. I'll do that now before I forget. Thank you, and cheerio.